Are you a wealth architect? That's somebody who wants to grow in all areas of life, not only financially, but mentally, physically, and spiritually. This is exactly what we're doing every single week on this show. I'm Emilio Despirito, your host of the Wealth Architect podcast, each and every week here. Wherever you're tuning in, we're glad you're here. We hope that this episode inspires you, motivates you to do something big, and maybe even blows your mind. Make sure you comment and interact with us. We'd love to hear from you. Let's get started. So one of the first things I learned in real estate was to never count your commissions before you have done your job, before you've taken care of your clients. And how many times does it happen where you're purchasing something from somebody, or you are experiencing a situation where somebody is more focused on the money than your actual experience and outcome? It's such a turnoff, and people can see right through it. And when you start looking at your clients as money instead of as people that need you to help solve one of the biggest problems in their life, you're not doing what you should be doing. So this is why it's so important to follow your passion in what you do. You have to love what you do because it's going to shine through. And when you do the right thing by your clients, I'm telling you, the success is going to come. Hey, a special thank you to our sponsor, Annie Mac Home Mortgage, whose Cash to Keys product is disrupting the industry. Sick and tired of finding the perfect home, not having your offer selected? I got to tell you, it happens all the time. With Cash to Keys, Annie Mac gives sellers a cash guarantee for each of their buyers' offers. Stop bidding and hoping. Instead, bid with Annie Mac and bid with confidence. Don't just bid, but win. Annie Mac Mortgage. When you're buying real estate, you need somebody that understands the ins and outs of the legal ends. It's so important to have the right attorney working for you. You also need a bulldog. Let me tell you something. The first time I sat in a conference room with this lady, Melissa Delana of Delana Law, I immediately knew she owned the room. You need an attorney that owns the room, that can solve problems and make things happen when everybody else can't. You want to hire Delana Law in Massachusetts, Connecticut, or Rhode Island. Delana Law delivers every single time. They're going to help you out with all of your real estate needs. It's delanalaw.com. You got to check them out. All right, thanks for joining us today on the Wealth Architect podcast. I'm Emilio Despirito, and we've got a great lineup for you today. We're excited to have back with us Frank McKinney, who is a real estate artist, entrepreneur, and international best-selling author and speaker known for creating markets where others didn't see the opportunity. So Frank, over the years, has designed, built, and sold 44 oceanfront speculative mansions with an average sales price of approximately $14 million. Beyond real estate, Frank is a philanthropist. He is also a 9-time international best-selling author whose career has centered on pushing the boundaries of risk, creativity, and aspiration. Frank truly is a real estate artist. He is fascinating. You gotta follow him all over social media. And today, Frank joins us in the Wealth Architect podcast to break down a powerful concept for anybody selling real estate, and it's this: how to move buyers from need to desire. Frank, welcome to the Wealth Architect.
Emilio, I made a commitment about 22 years ago when I was hosted on my very first podcast, never to do the same podcast twice because I didn't want to regurgitate the message with an audience. Recently, over the last 5 years, I made a couple exceptions, and yours is one of them because of what occurred, was it 6 months ago or 4 months ago, whenever we were together the first time. You are a
Yep.
fantastic host. You are a true real estate professional. The people that work underneath you, we do our research on who's hosting me, and that's why I want to come back and kind of take this next podcast or this podcast to kind of the encore level because you and I had such a good time last time.
Frank, I appreciate that. And, we feel the same way. We're careful who we select on here. We want people that could speak to our audience about how to build and accumulate wealth, not only financially, but mentally, spiritually, physically as well, too. And you know what? You're able to hit upon so much of that. We enjoyed having you. Thanks for coming back. And again, thanks for saying that. So what a great topic today. And it's specifically great because the market across the country has literally been moving to be more price sensitive and value driven. And I know that in the realm in which you and I work mostly, the luxury realm, people are more They want an experience, you know, they want the location, they want the product to be art. And that's truly what I love about what you do. But I do feel what we're going to talk about today is going to speak to our audience across all areas of real estate and life.
Well, for those who weren't a part of that first podcast, as Amelia said, Frank McKinney, I built 44 spec houses with an average selling price of $14 million. Corn-fed country boy that left Indiana with a $50 bill in my back pocket. Made me feel rich, by the way, having a $50 bill. One-way plane ticket from Indiana to Florida. And when I landed, it was Lifestyles of Rich and Famous. It was time for me to live that program. If you remember, you're my age. Lifestyles of Rich and Famous was a really entertaining program on TV. If you're younger, or if you kind of MTV Cribs would be its equivalent. And you know, over the years, we went from a $50,000 crack house, multiple $50,000 crack houses that we flipped. Matter of fact, the first 5 years of my career, I did not do a house worth more than $100,000. I did hundreds of smaller houses worth less than $100,000, and I became an expert at the craft of real estate, not the business of real estate, the craft of real estate. And then we jumped from 100 grand to 2.2 million. In 1992 was the first multi-million-dollar house we did. There was nothing in between, by the way, Amelia. It was 100,000.
That's wild.
And yeah, well, there's a reason. I know we only have 35 minutes. I don't want to go off on these tangents, but really, the craft of real estate is similar to the stamp that delivers an envelope. Whatever the cost of a stamp is now, 39 cents, 42 cents. I don't even know, but let's say it's 42 cents. That envelope, you put that on an envelope, it'll deliver a check for $5 grand, 500,000, or $5 million. It doesn't matter what the contents are. It's the same approach I took to becoming a real estate artist, an expert at the craft of real estate. You take that stamp, which is my approach, and you could put it on a blank envelope. First deal, I made $7 grand. My first crack house I flipped, I made 7,000. And we climbed. Well, I don't even say we climbed. We went from 50,000 to 100,000. We jumped to 2.2, then 4, then 6. We did a bunch in between. The most expensive one we did was a $50 million spec. But that same approach, that same stamp, is something I've talked about in my 2 real estate books, and something we're going to apply today. You know, how to move your buyers from need to desire it's a master class. Not that I'm going to give the master class, but it's a master class I took over a 30-year span on getting into the mind of the ultra wealthy. You and I were talking off camera that there's 2 million real estate professionals across the country, real estate brokers, real estate agents, whatever you want to call them. Less than 4% make more than 50 grand a year. So, I mean, you can't live on 50 grand. I don't care where you live. So what we became really good at, when I say we, me and my broker, I can sell as good as any broker out there, but I never was tempted to go it alone as a developer. I'm a real estate artist as a fancy broker developer. And so I've had 4 real estate brokers in my 35-year career. One died, one fired me. So it's not like I go through them every other week. And that skill of the craft of moving your buyer from need to desire is here it is put into practice, into practicality. The average days on market for a house over 5 million is over 8 months right now. 8 months days on market. If you take it cumulatively across the country, I know we're not talking to maybe we are talking to the country. So I'm not being specific to your market. I'm giving you a macro observation.
No, you're right on. Yeah.
8 months. You know how many days on market we averaged? Over 14.5 million in our 44 sales. 54.5 days on market. That was my average.
That's fantastic.
So there's a lot of sizzle to what we do, and there's a lot of flash to what you're going to hear, but the substance is what moves a house in 55 days.
I'm curious what that time frame is for $14 million homes. I would imagine it's even higher. It's such a specific buyer and such a small buyer pool that can afford a house around that point. It has to be higher. It has to be higher than 8 months for that right now.
Well, I don't think NAR, at least the last check, and I haven't checked in years, but NAR didn't keep stats. You know, they do 1 to 2 million, 2 to 3 million, they went 5 million plus. So yeah, I mean, our average, our average selling price at 14 million, you know, there were days I sold them in a day, and there were a couple of times it took, a year or so in a bad market. But
Sure.
We were acutely, like, monomaniacally focused on that experience a buyer has when they walk in that front door. And I'm
Let's
talking
Frank.
about the 5 senses, that we touch those 5 senses: sight, smell,
Perfect.
touch, taste, and sound, to that state of subliminal euphoria. And I'm gonna stop there. You can break that down if you want, but that first part of focusing, monomaniacally focusing on the 5 senses that your buyers are gonna have, and heightening the experience your buyer has with sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste to the state of subliminal euphoria, is what causes them to move from need to desire.
There's so much to break down what you just said, but I do want to go back to the stamp and on the envelope. That same stamp is going to send a $5,000 check. It's going to send a $5 million check. What a beautiful metaphor, and that can apply to all things in life.
Let me try to truncate that a little bit for those who are relying on commissions. Once you have the proper application to your sales approach, it doesn't matter if you're selling $100,000 house or $100 million mansion. And people would say, Frank, you're like, your second book, Burst This, Frank McKinney's Bubble Proof Real Estate Strategies. It must be focused on the high end. It works at any price point. That's where I came up with the stamp metaphor. Yes, there's more details. There's obviously more zeros involved in the sale price, but the approach,
Yeah.
once I got good at the craft of the creation of real estate art. And listen, the real estate art moniker was given to me by the Wall Street Journal about 22 years ago. Frank McKinney, the real estate artist. I grabbed it and ran with it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a starving artist, Emilio. I don't want to be one of those guys making less than 50 grand a year. So to take that artistry and make sure that we're monopolizing and monetizing at the same time, that's where the rubber hits the road. And the fact that we sold in 55 days is proof.
You know what? People want something unique. They want something with authenticity now more than ever. Because, Frank, when we look around at the designs of homes, buildings, just the way people's cars, the way people dress, everything is so bland. It's so, it's like brutalism. It is so boring and so uninspiring. So when you have something that pulls people in, and you can sell with the 5 senses, which is a beautiful thing. I taught a sales training on that a couple months back. When you can do that, you're gonna win.
You're going to win, and your commission checks are going to be bigger. You're going to actually, I don't believe in that work harder, not smart, or work smarter, not harder. That's BS. Like, you both work smart and hard, you're going to make a lot more
Yeah.
money.
You gotta
Right?
push. Yeah, you gotta
You
push.
can, but you got a brand. 2 million real estate agents in the United States. You've got to set yourself apart. I realized early on when I was building even our $100,000 flips. By the way, flip was a word used only in gymnastics. It wasn't even a word used in real estate when I started. And so this look that I've had since high school, which a lot of people will make fun of, I
I like it.
well, I didn't want to change. I'm not going to co-op or kind of sell out for anybody, anything, any amount of money. That's just one of my just core beliefs. And so what began to happen was, part of the sizzle, which you have to have before you introduce the substance. You have to have the flash before you introduce the steak. And so why do you have to? Because you got to set yourself apart. You mentioned a minute
Mhm.
ago how many people can afford a $14 million house on average. There's less than 50,000 people out of a worldwide population of 8 billion that can afford what I do for a living. So what I
Wow.
realized is I am the carnival barker. I'm the megaphone. I'm the ringmaster. I'm the P.T. Barnum. But the true show starts when you walk in the front door of one of my houses. I'm the opening act, actually. I step out of the way. The hair, the clothes does not come with the house. Once you walk in the
Mhm.
front door, if I didn't have substance, I would have been a flash in the pan variety, and would have been gone 35 years ago. So as a broker, as a real estate professional, branding, like I do this. I enjoy doing this. I can usually do it like almost like speed dating. If you had 4 people in there, if I could get to know them within a minute, I could come up with what their brand should be. Just a suggestion, take it or leave it. And building on your personal brand. So most of the people who are watching this are real estate professionals, sales agents,
Developers.
developer. Okay, so personal branding is the art of amplifying your essence to the point where your customers, either current or future, become subliminally intoxicated with you first, then your product or service. You are not Coke, you are not Pepsi, you are not Kleenex, you're not Apple. You are Emilio, I am Frank. If you think about like Renoir, Monet, Michelangelo, Van
Yeah.
Gogh, eventually there were people that were eagerly awaiting what they were going to paint. So that's
Yep.
was my goal, is to create a brand where, hey, you might not like his bombastic style of unveiling a house and it's too like backlot Vegasy or Broadway, but oh my gosh, on the phone with their clients, you got to see this house. This guy is kind of over the top. You got to see this house. Mission accomplished.
Perfect. Yeah. Why are so many people afraid to just be themselves? Why are so many people afraid to put their brand out there, and then they just kind of fall into everything else? They kind of fall into the noise.
I don't want to get into the big tangent here, but it has a lot to do with social acceptance. And even though a majority of people, like my daughter's age and a little older, my daughter's 28, maybe from the 25 to 40 age group, really think they're standing out by fitting in. And if you watch
Mm.
some of the influence that they get over social media, they really kind of think they're being different because everybody else is being different in this certain way, and then they're all the same. So
Yeah.
I think you have to be willing to exercise your risk tolerance, like your risk threshold, like a muscle.
Sure.
Eventually,
That's
that
a developer
muscle.
thing. Every developer I speak with, Frank, has a set of kahunas and literally is not afraid of failing, not afraid of telling people no, not afraid of really stretching the limits and just doing what they need to do to get it done, because everybody and anything is against you.
They're not
No.
born that way. None of the real estate agents that I have worked with, or kind of, I'm not gonna use the word coach because I really don't do that, but have read my books or something. You got to be willing to when I build a house. So first of all, I had to exercise my risk tolerance like a muscle to be able to go from a $50,000 crack house flip to a $50 million mansion. Right? It happened over decades. But
I
I
love
have to
that.
be willing on the developer side, and this is something for the brokers who are listening. I need to be able to take the risk in what I call the 4 money rooms in a house. And if I were on a street right now in New York, Manhattan, I would ask anybody walking by, the first 10 people, what gender is the kitchen? Female. What gender is the
Right.
master bathroom? Female-ish. What gender is the master bedroom? Female-ish. And then your kind of your office, your man cave, your theater, what have you, would be male. We took huge risks in those 4 rooms because those rooms made or broke us. When I say
Hmm.
broke us, I would have people walk in the door and like take a look at the kitchen where we imported one second or third house ago. We imported countertops that were made out of lava from France, 15,000
Wow.
year old countertops that were as blue as the ocean when you go out 2 miles.
Wow.
And if somebody walked in the door and says, "What in the world were you thinking?" Fine, move on. Because nobody is going to make a purchase of 15, 14, 5, whatever $1 million purchase based upon a head scratching, "Hey, honey, that was kind of nice." No, it's
Right.
either, "What in the world was he thinking?" or, "That's the nicest kitchen I've ever seen in my life. Where's the contract?"
Right. Wow. Lava.
Lava. Blue lava. You go to my website. That's one of the few buyers that allowed me to keep pictures up of the house. A lot of times I got to take them down after we marketed them.
Sure.
But that
Yeah.
one, oh my goodness, it's polished, as smooth as, like, oh God, like onyx. It was beautiful, but it was deep. If you've ever been deep sea fishing, you've been way out into the ocean, you look at that azure blue, that was the color of these countertops.
That's wild. Must be beautiful. Where was that, in Florida, that house?
That was the last oceanfront house we did in Florida. We sold that about 3 years ago.
Beautiful. And now you're moving on to, more secluded areas, more areas where, for peace, you have something, you're putting a video together, the 5 seasons of Panther Creek, and that's out in Western North Carolina. And you've got a huge unveiling coming up. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, well, first of all, the reason behind, and this will speak to your real estate professionals and your developers. When my margins began to become so compressed in the South Florida oceanfront market, the risk was no longer worth taking. You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you some of this in my books. Like my formula for making money, I guess, is acquisition basis. So listen up. If you're flipping a $50,000 house or you want to get to the $50 million house, acquisition basis, in other words, what it costs you to buy the opportunity, be it vacant land or a flip, plus improvement basis, meaning what it costs you to change the paint on the walls or build it from the ground up, should rarely, if ever, equal more than 65% of aftermarket retail. So that's my formula. So very simply, if I'm doing a $10 million house, I don't want to have more than 6.5-ish into it. If it's a buyer's market, I might go up to, 7 million or 70%. If it's a seller's market, then I'm going to come down to 60%. So that formula was applied. It does, listen, 44 oceanfront houses sounds like a lot, but when you spread it out over 30 years, it's really a house and a half a year. I mean, that's all I did.
It's pretty good though for the caliber of a home you're building with the customizations and the thought you put into them.
But it was really a quality of life thing, getting back to your Western North Carolina. So when the margins were so compressed, I felt like I could never get to even 70%. Like it was 90% because there was so much competition that I bolted. I said, I can't do this because what if you get caught in one of those downturns and you're going to be underwater from the beginning? Like you can't. You're going to sell it for a massive loss. I came to Western North Carolina to colonize a new moon, which we did in Palm Beach by building on the ocean for all those 35 years. But coming here, when I say here, I am here now in Western North Carolina, in the Waynesville area. It is like colonizing a new moon. So then my margin, even though the numbers, there's no $50 million houses, there's no $10 million houses here really.
Sure.
But
yeah.
in the $5 million range is really not been experienced. And at the level that we're doing it now, that we will unveil on October 3rd. I don't know when this podcast is coming out, but I'm having a grand unveiling on October 3rd, which is a Saturday from 5 to 8 p.m. That is going to combine, like we're known for our theatrical and our immersive and just plain fun grand unveilings because the world needs more fun. We're known for them, and this is going to exceed them all because this is probably, it's likely my last, I'll be honest with you, Emilio, I'm not doing a house and a half a year with an average selling price of $14 million. Those days are gone. But I wanna splash this market as a rocket, solid rocket would splash down on the moon for the first time. And you'll remember when Neil Armstrong took that first step into the moon in I think it was July of '69. The same thing's going to happen on October 3rd. You're going to experience something that you've never experienced before. Not only in the house and the grounds and the property, 5 acres with 1,465 direct linear riverfront feet. It's a third of a mile. But with the experience you're going to have when you're at the party.
That's great. Now let's talk about that event. Like what type of people can you expect there? Is it potential clients? Is it real estate agents? Who is it?
Well, what I wanted to focus on first, this is going to sound a little odd, but I have never worked with a group of vendors on any of my projects that were as professional as the vendors on this project. The electrician, the plumber, the HVAC guy, the roofer, the window guy. So I've went to them first through my GC. I'm not a GC. I went to my GC and I said, look, I want those guys to show off their work to their families. Their wives and kids never get to see their work. And I said, first and foremost, I'm only able to have 125 people at the party because of fire marshal. So we're going to show that off to the vendors. They got the first shot at some of the RSVP spots. Then, because we're going to have stuff like, I have you know what an ice luge is?
Yes, of course.
So I have an ice luge, a moonshine, like the real, maybe not so legal moonshine ice luge that is going to be poured into a perfectly carved replica of the house. So we're spending a fortune. Probably I'm spending as much on this ice sculpture as I spent on my first crack house. Seriously, it's being etched in the same form as the house. You pour your moonshine down the chimney. It serpentines through the house. So it actually takes you on a tour of the house, your moonshine, and it drops out the front door. We've got axe throwing. I've got skeet shooting, fly fishing, I've got a treasure hunt with cash prize. I even got a rubber duck derby because I have a lazy river here, and that your duck is the first to fall in the swimming pond, you win cash. So it's just, and it's meant for kids. I probably will have 20 kids under the age of 10 there because we're all big
Oh,
kids,
that's
and
great.
I want the kids to have fun too.
That's amazing. So we'll talk about an experience. All right. So you got the contractors there. What other type of people are going to be in attendance?
I mean, you kind of want to make sure you got your politicians there in the event I want to keep this going. Because when I
Yep.
first moved to Western North Carolina, I had multiple death threats. I had to have police investigate these death threats because people just did not want somebody like me. They were afraid I was going to come in here and change the landscape, which I didn't do.
Yeah. Why
And
would you? Yeah.
I had to let my talk back up my walk, and I kind of backed up for a couple of years and just kind of got ingratiated with the locals. And not by money, just kind of by just, hanging with them and getting to know them and getting to know the vendors. So I'll have some politicians there. There's some people in Florida that are very curious to see what we've done here because there is a
Hmm.
certain class of buyer that goes to a place in Western North Carolina called the Highlands. And the Highlands would be kind of like the Palm Beach of North Carolina, like the Western North Carolina. So I will
Hmm.
have some brokers that are going to come up for the event. My last broker in Florida is going to be coming. There's some Sotheby's people. I don't know if there's any Ingle and Volkers people. Well, you're going to come, so you'll be the only Ingle and Volkers person
You
there.
bet. Private
Cool.
office in the house. Yep.
Yeah. So I hope you guys come and you bring your kids. You have one kid, two kids.
I do. I have a son. I don't have him that weekend,
Okay.
unfortunately, but I can ask mom.
Yeah. Make a deal. Like, just say you can have my son for the next 5 Christmases, but I need him for October 3rd.
Not giving up Christmases, even as much as I love you, Frank. All right, so we got the event, we got the people. Now, let's talk about when people are walking into your property, selling with those five senses, moving buyers from a want to desire. How are you doing that? How are you conveying that? How are you making people leave there wanting more?
Okay. So let's get back to the premise. How do you move them from need to desire? And this I can't say this applies over all price points because once you get over, depending on your market, 5 million, 10 million, what in Florida would be 10 million. The need is no longer there. Like the need I define by I need to put a roof over my head. So
Right.
that is the case at almost every price point below 5 million. So let's talk to that first. So moving a buyer who needs to put a roof over their head, and that could be kind of a want too. Like I want to move to Western North Carolina because I'm tired of the crowds in Florida. Okay. So I am going to be moving from, this is an example. I'm going to be moving from South Florida and I'm going to move to Western North Carolina because I hear it's a great place to live and the cost of living is cheaper. So it's akin to your ex-wife or my wife walking through the mall and wanting a pair of shoes, a new shoes. They have perfectly good shoes on their feet. But when they walk by
Hmm.
that glass storefront of all the fancy shoes, pretty quick, if it's merchandised right, if it's lit right, if it's represented right on the little stand there, they're going to desire something that they do not need. Your ex-wife, my wife, has a pair of shoes that are perfectly good. What moves them to desire? All right, so I've piqued their interest. I hear this house in Western North Carolina is something I should consider. I'm gonna go see it. So they walk in the front door. Right. Before they get to the front door, how do we set up the arrival? How do I set up from the I've actually mowed people's property on either side of my houses. I've cleaned up their trash on the other side. I want to make sure from the moment they drive up, that site, the one sense site is right. Then as they kind of maneuver and serpentine through the driveway, I've got a lazy river. You're going to drive over the lazy river. You're going to see the swimming pond on one side. You're already becoming a little bit intoxicated with that sight sense. If it's a
Sure.
nice day here, I do not need to play music throughout the house because you've got the sound of the river right up front. It is the most, depending on how much water is moving through the river, it's a stereophonic experience. So I've got the sound covered. I do have house music in case I need it. Smell. So in October, the leaves will be changing. You better believe that I will have sprinkled throughout the house on the top of every other light bulb some kind of pine scent or lavender scent. Lavender is a scent that moves people to buy. So we would
Huh.
always go. My wife's really good at buying these scent essentials. I think is where she gets it, and she doesn't get paid for it, but that's a good spot. and you take a little dropper, you put it on all the light bulbs, every other light bulb, maybe every third light bulb if you have a lot of light bulbs. It doesn't smell at all until you turn on the light. And then
Wow.
immediately you got that sense of smell. You can do pine, you can do chocolate chip cookie. Like back in the day, we would cook chocolate chip cookies in the oven, and instead of cooking them at 400, we cook them at 200 because they just smell all day. Smell good. So there's your smell. I'm going to touch that. Every room she has these candles that she lights that are just so soothing. Sight, sound, smell, touch. So some of the area rugs that she uses are so plush, these Persian kind of wool rugs, that you wouldn't need a mattress to sleep in the room that they're in. So we'll have you take off your shoes. Yes, it appears I'm trying to preserve the house, which I am, but I want you to feel there's more nerve endings in the bottom of your feet than any other part of your body. I want you to feel how plush that is through your feet without shoes on. And then taste. Back in the day, I would put out Doritos, Cheetos, and Mountain Dew for a $50,000 open house because I wanted people to, have something to eat. Now, chocolate to women is the second closest thing to sex, or the next best thing to sex. So we have a variety of chocolates that are super expensive that will be in these little dishes throughout the house. So we're picking at all your five senses in the first 5 minutes that you drive in the driveway. Now here's where you move from need to desire. So you've got all the senses firing on all cylinders, and you've got to do it in sequence, and you've got to keep it coming. When you've done that, what happens, Emilio, is their impulse window opens. You have the impulse window. The impulse window is, this is pretty nice. However poker face they want to give you, but the brain is saying, this is pretty nice. Now, you have to close them. You have to close them while the impulse window is open. Because what will happen with your ultra high-end buyers, 5 million plus, is if you don't close them while that impulse window is open, they'll turn to their wife or husband and say, you know what, honey, this is kind of nice. Let's just say at the penthouse suite at the Ritz-Carlton in Western North Carolina. We really don't. We really don't need this. Emilio, I can tell you that I had people multiple times walk in the front door of one of our houses on a Tuesday, and they would be sleeping there on Friday. Sleeping there. What is that? So yes, the impulse window is open. What do I have to do to close that? I got to make sure my title work is kind of like a fireman ready to slide down a pole. It is ready to go. Up to date. Mm-hmm. If you pull title on one of my houses, it is clean and ready to go. I have a contract by the front door. So everything's filled in. Everything's filled in except for your price and your name. Ready to go. And if I feel they're on the fence, which is okay at the beginning, I'm going to invite them back at night. Make sure you get them back to your listing at night, because the house, assuming the developer or seller did it right, sometimes these houses show better at night than they do in the day.
True. Yeah.
And the money
lighting, everything else.
The landscape lighting and all that, the money we spend. This house is beautiful. I've actually put a spotlight on the river. So the whole river for a third of a mile is lit up.
Wow.
Then you've got the window open. You're closing them quickly. There's no impediment. I also say, look, you're going to get by law a 1-year warranty. And most of the time, this is going to find this really odd, but most of the time there's no inspections. No inspections. Because why? Here's the thing from developers and real estate professionals. Sacrifice your bottom line for your reputation. In other words, build your reputation first and the bottom line will follow. What does that mean? I always, early in my career, my margins were thinner because I over-improved and I over-set aside money at the end to fix things that maybe weren't even my fault. So word got out through the brokerage community, not through me, through the brokerage. Said, this guy, hey, you can trust this guy, Frank. You buy it today on Tuesday, you sleep here on Friday, he'll fix whatever you want.
Yep. Perfect. Reputation is everything. It's everything.
It is, and that will move your buyers from, I kind of need to get out of here. Oh my God, I desire that house. And once so the desire is a synonym for impulse window being open. When it's open, you can't let it shut because it shuts as fast as it opens sometimes. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying
we've seen it. I've seen it.
You've seen it.
I've seen it.
some people will shop and go look at a bunch of properties, but I'll tell you this, the higher the price point, the less time in making a decision. The ultra wealthy,
Right.
is one thing I learned from them is they are rapid fire decision makers.
Right. Because time is money, anyways. And think about how much time they spend to get out to the destination, to go view it. They know what they want. And oftentimes, before they're even there, they've done their homework. They're
Yeah.
informed buyers.
They're informed, and because of professional people like you know, and the fact that I'll spend a boatload on video. I'm doing a movie, The 5 Seasons of Panther Creek. I have taken a whole year to shoot winter, spring, summer, fall, put it into a little short movie, 15-minute movie, so the buyer can see, "Oh my goodness, this is what I would experience. I lived here year round."
Perfect. And wait, did you say 5 seasons?
Yeah, the 5th season is your season if you buy it.
Ah, all right. Slick. So slick. I love that. Look, Frank, nothing you say like surprises me, even though it is a surprise because I'm expecting the unexpected when I'm talking with you. I can't wait to see what you've got going down there on in Panther Creek on what is it, October 3rd?
October
You're
3rd.
unveiling
Yep.
October 3rd. And that's an exclusive invitation. I appreciate that. That's exciting. Um, we got to wrap up, unfortunately. But any closing remarks you want to share with our listeners?
Well, you already got the exercise your risk tolerance like a muscle. It's great to hear other people subscribe to the same philosophy. I would tell your listeners and viewers that, you know, each one of us has been blessed with the ability to succeed, but not for your own benefit. You know, I was borderline suicidal when I was at the top of my game in the late 90s, or at least ascending to the top of my game. And the reason I was is because I hadn't found my spiritual highest calling. I found my professional highest calling, building these beautiful houses
Hmm.
on spec. But spiritually, there was no heart in my soul anymore. Like I was dead. It had left me. And when I found my spiritual highest calling, where we build these self-sustaining villages in Haiti, I built 33 villages in 23 years and provided a self-sustaining existence to 14,600 kids that are eating dirt flavored with
Wow.
bouillon and lemon juice. I implore you as a listener, as a real estate professional developer, to find that spiritual highest calling. Sooner the better, because it gives your purpose. Like it gives you whatever your passion is. It must be real estate. You're listening to Emilio. It must be real estate. So, but what's the purpose behind the passion? And when I realized I could provide a house for a family of 8 in Haiti for 5 grand, you know how easy it was to get up in the morning and go and, work on another spec house with all that risk because I had that
Right.
spiritual highest calling in the forefront of my mind.
What a beautiful thing.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say is, and don't let this scare you if I'm not into the Bible, which of course,
I'm 100 Dispirito with the Holy Spirit, my last name.
witness. No, not you, your listener. Uh,
Oh yeah.
it's a Bible passage that if it wasn't would be a great life mantra. To whom much is entrusted, much is expected. To whom much is given, much is required. That comes from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 12, verse 48. But it's a great life mantra to live by. And that's why I love
Amen.
making time for, Emilio and people like you listening is you don't want to be lost in a sea of 2 million real estate professionals. You want to stand out. You want to succeed. You want to make more than 50 grand a year, like only 4% of people do. That's why you're listening to Emilio.
That's right. I love it. Frank McKinney. Make sure you follow him all over social media. And you can go to his website, frank-mckinney.com. You can check out his books, some of his projects, and you can always stay up to date with him there and Instagram, Facebook, everywhere else. Frank, thanks so much for being a guest. We appreciate you. We love your work. And really, your take on all of this is just unbelievably different, authentic, fantastic. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Emilio. We'll see you again maybe
You're,
for a third episode. That would be
yeah,
a first for
I
me.
would love to have you on for the trace for the third, all about it. And I'll see you in October.
See you October 3rd.
A huge thank you to Frank McKinney. Wow, like what an impressive guy. You got to see his work. Check it out, frank-mckinney.com. Check out his work there. We've got a really fantastic guest coming in right now. His name is Jamie Harrington with Image 10. I'm going to go ahead and welcome him in a minute, but it's all about passion that drives business and really drives the thought leaders in any industry. And Jamie is exactly that. I can't wait to hear more about him and to share with you. Hang tight. Have you ever heard of upfront underwriting? Well, I haven't until I started working with Movement Mortgage. Movement Mortgage is one of the top loan originators around the country. Specifically, I want to give a thank you to Matt Bates. And if you're lucky enough to live in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, or New Hampshire, I strongly suggest you contact Matt Bates at rimortgageguy.com. Again, rimortgageguy.com. And he's going to help you to find that dream home. He does upfront underwriting, which means they fully approve you for a mortgage before you even place offers, increasing your chances of winning that dream home. rimortgageguy.com. I always love the opportunity to be sitting here with somebody that I respect, admire, and have seen grow over the years. And today, the topic is passion in business and passion with business. And I asked my good friend, Jamie Harrington, the photographer, one of the owners of Image 10, arguably the best photographer in the state of Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts and Connecticut too, I think, for real estate.
For sure, yeah.
Real estate and event photography, just does a wonderful job. And again, Jamie, I've seen you through the years, go through the struggles as a business owner and persevere and come through on top. But you've always had this passion about what you do. And I want to talk with our listeners about this because there's a lot of people here that are doing big things. And along the way, that path is not easy.
No, but for sure. I mean, I hear people's stories all the time, like, wow, they did all that in a short amount of time. Like, what am I doing? Right.
Yeah.
But I feel like I need to just wake up in the morning and keep going, And I don't know really where I got that passion from. My mom's a hard worker. My dad is a hard worker. I guess maybe the combination of them two together. But I started my own business when I was 15 years old.
Wow. What was that?
I was a DJ.
You were a DJ
wedding
too?
DJ, yeah.
Me too.
Yep.
It's wedding DJ.
So I did my first wedding when I was 15 years old.
Wow.
My mom had to drive me to my first job because I didn't have a license.
Yeah. Wow. 15. Did you have your own equipment? Or?
Yep. I used to do high school dances. And what happened was I came home on a Thursday and my mom said, hey, what are you doing on Saturday? And I said, I don't know. I'm, 15 years old, right? And she said, well, you're doing a wedding and you can't say no. Just like that. And I said, what do you mean? I've never done a wedding. I've only done high school dances. Like, I don't even know what do I have to do?
Yeah.
Do I have the right music? And I'm freaking out, right? She said, well, it's for my friend whose DJ got, put in the hospital and he doesn't have a backup. So It's Thursday, their wedding's Saturday, and you need to do it to save them.
How did it go?
I think it went well. She went with me and she's like, okay, well, this is the cake cutting and this is what you're supposed to do. And I got through it and people danced and I think I did pretty well. And then from that point on, I'm like, hey, I can actually get paid for this. And I went out on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday. And, small town, people started to get to know me. And I did quite well, actually.
How many weddings?
I made more money than I ever have in my entire life.
Wow. I believe it. Yep. I mean, it's a really good career. It's really lucrative.
Yep.
The only thing is your weekends are just exhausted with that.
Well, you learn to live with that.
Right.
When you're making decent money and people are booking you all the time.
Cash.
And,
tips.
Right. Exactly. So it started with that drive. It just kept going and going. I worked in radio for a while in Vermont, and when I moved to Rhode Island, and that's when I met you.
Yeah.
And
you can hear this guy's voice. You might say, where have I heard his voice? All over the radio. I mean, he had dozens and dozens and hundreds of commercials over time. They still play.
Yeah,
5 years
later. Many years later, I still hear them every once in a while. Yeah, but I was on the air, and then I became production director. And for those of you that don't know, it's basically making the commercials that everybody probably tunes out.
Can we get can you just make just an impromptu commercial for the Wealth Architect podcast?
Ooh, off the top of my head?
Yeah, you got this. We focus on helping people to grow their wealth financially, mentally, physically, and spiritually.
I do have a demo laying around.
Yeah?
A little commercial demo.
I feel like you could just cut through. Just try it. No judgment. Putting you right on the spot.
The Wealth Architect Podcast, where you can find the greatest guests every day. And there's more. Remember, there's more voices, but yeah, it's been a little rusty because I've been doing real estate for quite a while.
Yeah.
So,
the photography end of it, and
Yeah.
and you know, you guys just do such a great job. I love that though. I always get a kick when I hear commercials come up. All right, so we met. I was doing this show, started it 12 years ago, but back then it was called the Round Table Real Estate Simplified. That's when I met Jamie. Jamie was handling the production of the
Yep.
commercials over at iHeartRadio. So
Yeah. You came in my studio. We did our thing that we had to do for your radio show.
Yeah.
And I pitched you photography.
and I was right on it. But back then, right, like realtors would take awful, not even camera phones, really, some of them, but they would just take the worst photos. And there was only a small percentage of realtors taking professional photos.
Yeah.
And you had to get it through MLS at that time.
Right.
There was very few photographers in real estate at that time. And that was one of the things. I was like, I want quality. And when you pitched me on that, I was like, you kidding me? Perfect. And I would see you kind of like scurry out of like the radio station, like run, and then you got busier and busier and busier. And I felt like the radio station felt that.
Well, what happened was I had a job that was very flexible in time.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be there in the morning, but the morning shows, they took up my studio for quite a while. So I knew that they wouldn't be out of there till 11 a.m. So I could do shoots in the morning and then go to work and do that. And as long as I did my job, they were fine with it. And that little voice in your head, never ignore that voice, because that little voice in my head said, you need to pick up your photography because something is going to happen at this job.
What happened?
So about a year later, on a Friday, they walked me out after 11 and a half years.
Always on a Friday.
Yep.
It's a corporate thing.
Right. So what happened was they eliminated my position.
Yep.
And the funny story is, I walked out of there. I had that day off. I had the next day off. And the following day, I had a full schedule, because what happened was I was doing photography on the side, building that client base, because I knew that that's what I had to do. And then, bingo. I mean, I just hit the ground running, and it was the best thing I ever did.
I love that. And you built that up. I remember seeing you just get busier and busier and busier and busier. And then like your availability got tighter and tighter and tighter. And like, look, that's what you want in a professional, right? Because it means they're in demand. And
don't ignore that voice, whatever it's telling you.
I admire that. So the voice was like, just go for it.
Yep.
And you did.
Whatever you got to do it. And I was prepared to be fired over it. And I never was, because I think I was pretty good at it, you know.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it a long time, and people have, you know, given me praise for, you know, doing that job. And so anyway, I didn't think I was going to lose it because of that. They might have talked to me about it, but I just said, you know, I'm all in on this photography. I mean, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do it.
So if you're tuning in right now, we've got Jamie Harrington, one of the owners of Image 10 Photography, and they're real estate photographers over at Image 10. They cover real estate and events, and they do such a fantastic job. I know they're branching off into more things. They're growing their team, and the type of people and what they do is just so high quality. But most importantly, I've known Jamie for several years, and he runs a passion-driven business, and hearing his backstory really just it is so inspiring. And Jamie, you know, you got walked out of your corporate job 11 and a half years into it, and you have a home, you have a family, you have bills you had to pay.
Yep.
Can you kind of talk about some of those beginning struggles as a business owner? Like, what was going through your head? What kept you going?
Oh yeah. You know, I remember coming home and telling my wife, and I'm like, hey, remember that thing I wanted to do and you wouldn't let me? Well, guess what? You have no choice now.
Yeah.
So I did it, and I just kept going and going and doing what my gut said. And one of those things was I had met my now business partner, Kyle Pagliarini.
Shout out to Kyle.
Yeah. And
Great guy.
he was my intern
Yeah.
in
Wow.
radio. Yep. And we just hit it off. And he went to Connecticut to pursue a job at ESPN. And we kept in touch. And I called him one day and I said, hey, if you can make it back, because he was thinking about coming back. And I said, well, if you can make it back here, you know, I'll make it worth your while.
Wow.
Like, I want you to, you know, be a photographer. And we didn't really talk about the business partner thing at that point. But once he got back and started working, I knew that it was going to be a great partnership. So in 2023, we formed an LLC, and he became my business partner.
It's been that long already?
Yep.
Wow. 3
Yep.
years.
It was December of 23.
Wow.
Yep.
Kyle just shot one of our huge listings for us, and he did a beautiful job.
Yeah, I've trained him well.
Yeah, you guys are great. And it's funny now, it's like, so whenever your company is not shooting my listings, I know. Like, I know the difference. I go, Mike, who shot this? Right?
I like to hear that.
And look, and it's, and the other company is good, right? But like, I know the difference, and you guys have an eye for it. So, all right, so you've got 3 photographers in total now, right?
Yep, and we're working on 2 more.
And 2 more.
Yep.
How many homes have you shot, do you think, since you've started?
Oh, since I started, we do. I didn't know you were going to come up with those numbers, but
Thousands.
yeah, easily
Thousands.
thousands. Yeah, I mean, I would say since I started, 10,000 at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Photo, video, floor plans,
Everything, 3D tours. Yeah, everything
3D
you need for
tours.
real estate, we do.
You've done our events as well too.
Mm-hmm.
How? Let me ask you this, like, right? So, like,
That was
all right,
getting back to my wedding days, right?
yeah.
So kind of just mixing everything now.
I'm curious, right? So, actually, going back to the wedding DJ days, like, what was your biggest takeaway from that part of your life, right? What was your biggest takeaway from that DJing experience?
People skills, a lot of people
everything.
skills throughout my entire career, with photography and DJ, dealing with deadlines and stress from, the bookings and getting there and meetings and all the stuff that business owners go through. You have to learn how to manage that. And I'm happy that I was able to manage it early.
You guys
and
do a
make
great
my
job.
mistakes and learn from that. I joke with my business partner Kyle that we've had like 7 booking systems because nothing really worked out. And then you just trial and error. You just keep trying things and make it happen.
So, all right. So, real estate is probably one of the fastest paced, most intense service type of business. Okay. It just is. Like, you got so many people tugging on you. The realtors definitely, they want these photos right away. They want them edited. They want them perfect. And their clients are all over them too. And like, they've got deadlines. So, how do you deal with that stress of such a fast-paced, all night sometimes type of environment? You're not sleeping. So, like, how are you dealing with that?
It's tough. I mean, I've never been one to sleep very much, so that's kind of a blessing. And, and the whole time when I was younger as a DJ, I had that voice in my head again, and it said, "You got to learn Photoshop." Don't know why. I'm a DJ. Why do I need Photoshop?
Yeah.
Right? But it kept telling me, got to learn Photoshop. And there's a reason for it, obviously. So I started learning it slowly, and I was able to hit the ground running when I did become a photographer late in life.
Where does that voice come from?
Ooh, I'd love to know, because the times I don't listen to it, it's not a good thing. I just, whenever I hear it, I'll just follow it. Sometimes it'll say you need to take this road instead of another road, and ends up working out.
Yeah.
And it's wild.
Wow.
I don't know if I'm unique to that or everybody has that, but I do not ignore it.
I would say you're in tune to it, because there's a lot of people that don't listen to that. A lot of people that stay caged in a life that they don't want. And this is part of why I wanted to talk with you today, Jamie, is because you've always followed. I didn't know that specifically. I'm glad I do now, but you've always followed your heart, and you've always done the right thing, and you've stood by what you do. And I find that extremely inspiring. And the fact of the matter that you follow your gut and you follow this voice, which I believe is divine. I believe that as humans, we have a connection with something far greater. I believe it's God, far greater than just ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt.
If you know how to tap into that,
Yeah.
that's genius. Like, that's,
I wouldn't say I'm tapped into it, but I definitely, whenever it rears its head, I listen to it.
yeah. Well, you know how to listen and how to recognize it. So let that be a sign for you. If you're listening to this today and you have a passion, you have something that you want to do, and you want to break out of your shell, you want to break out of the monotony of that 9-to-5 job, and you want to find something and be creative and just go for it. And you might fail, you might fall down, you get up, keep going. People do it.
Yeah, you gotta follow your heart and, just keep going. Get up in the morning, develop a routine, and just keep going forward. And if you're thinking about starting a business, there's no better way to do it than just, forward and just make sure that you're doing exactly what you want to do in life, because it's short,
It is.
And when you get into your business, there's nothing like it to make your own hours, to some extent, like we talked about. But it's awesome. Like when I needed a day off the other day, and I just scheduled it. So I mean, it works out. So
it can be. You can go from one cage to another,
right?
If you're not careful. It's a ball and chain, a cage.
It really is.
There's just it's so involved, but it's so fun at the same time.
Yeah, it really is.
Jamie,
fun is a great word.
It is.
Everybody says, "Oh, I can't imagine dealing with clients all the time and having it be your own business."
Characters.
No, it's awesome.
You deal with personalities and characters.
I never want to do anything different.
Mm-mm. I love that. Real quick, Jamie, how about this? People, when they're starting a business or following their passion, they've got their family, their friends, they've got people in their ear saying, don't do it, you can't do it. And there's a saying that says some customers will become your friends and your friends will not become your customers, something like that. What do you say to yourself to get through those limiting kind of that limited talk, that type of talk where people are talking you down unintentionally?
Well, actually, I had that happen. I mean, my wife, I had 2 young kids.
Yeah.
And when I wanted to branch off into photography and drop my full-time job before I was let go, I was talking to her about it. And she was like, "No, you have kids and you have responsibilities." And yeah, I do, but I got this drive. I just can't ignore it. Like, I really want to bust out of this and do this photography full time. I've been doing it part time in the morning before work and a little bit after sometimes and weekends. So I built up this client base. I know I can make it work, and you just have to. Sometimes when you have to, she said, no, can't do it. And then shortly after I was let go, and then she had no choice.
Yeah, nice, nice. But it comes from an area of like scarcity, protection, being scared, and it's common. And we hear that all the time with wives, with my, family members. Like my family told me, don't do it. Don't get into real estate too. So now they're like, wow, we're glad you didn't listen to us. People, they look at it how they look at maybe themselves in that situation, and it's like, oh, it's scary. But
find a way. That's what I say.
Look, from start all the way to now, Jamie runs one of the largest photography companies in the region, and is also our #1 preferred photographer here at Engel & Volkers. We've got about 30 advisors here, and all of them, for the most part, are using you. So
I still have old pictures of us from way back. I should send them to you.
You got to share them. That would be awesome. Good stuff. Jamie Harrington with Image 10. You can check him out at image10.com, and real estate photographers. Good stuff, Jamie. Thanks so much for being on The Wealth Architect. Appreciate you. All right. What a fantastic show. I'm leaving here more inspired today than I was yesterday. And that's what it's all about here in the Wealth Architect podcast. Feel free to check it all out, wealtharchitectradio.com. You'll see our previous segments. This one, if you're listening live on radio, is going to air in a couple of days all over the website too. So thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you. And thank you again for Frank McKinney, the real estate artist, aka developer, and also Jamie Harrington with Image 10 Photographers for coming in and really sharing their insights and their inspiration here. Take care. God bless you. We'll be back next week on the Wealth Architect podcast.